Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Medi-Helpz LLC and Patients Rising Organization as we bring to you the second, well, it's the second because we had to cancel the first, but the second series in our Black History Month event. We're coming to you live this month because we really want our communities to, understand what health care system is doing in certain areas and how it's negatively and sometimes positively impacting us. But the series that we're bringing you, it is all about the healthcare issues are impacting, having a heavy impact on the African American community, as well as the underserved community and the marginalized communities. So this evening for our special event, we have Stephanie Rim. That's Stephanie with a V, Rim. I will read to you just a brief synopsis of the wonderful things she's working on and that she's doing in her life right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to her and let her bring us information in reference to mental health as it impacts our communities. And once again, when I say our, I'm specifically talking about Black and Brown communities, marginalized communities as well. So, Stephanie is currently in her junior year of college at Montclair State University. She is studying business with a concentration in entrepreneurship. Last year, she was honored to receive Entrepreneur of the Year at Montclair State, and she was the first student speaker ever to present at the Woman in Entrepreneurship Annual Conference that was held at the university. She is an activist, public speaker, and a passionate change maker in her community. She started her business initiative called Conversation Matters, and yes, it does, back in 2019. It is a teacher development that trains educators on how to have uncomfortable but important conversations, such as the topic that she will be discussing this evening, which is mental health, with their students in the classroom. Stefani also proudly serves on the university's president's advisory board with other students who were specifically handpicked to meet with campus leaders regularly. For her free time, she enjoys spending time with loved ones, cooking, and check this, she's now into kickboxing. So, without further ado, I am going to bring you Stephanie. But before she comes, what I do want to say is that if you're interested in anything that we're talking about this evening, if put in comments and I'm not able to see them, I will of course respond to them later. But I'm going to do my best to respond to them as Stephanie is giving us her information on mental health in our youth. That is all yours, Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate this opportunity. I think it's really important that there is a platform and safe space for students, especially students of color, children, teens, to have these important conversations about our mental health. It's it is it is honestly, I always say that mental health is just as important as physical health. The mind, the body, and the soul are all connected. So I'm really happy to be here and have this conversation with you all today.
Okay, Stefani, the floor is all yours. Please go ahead. Again, what CHLMS is a organization, a nonprofit, a national nonprofit organization. That what we do is we believe in the encouragement and support for patient education, patient empowerment, and patient engagement. And you cannot be engaged or empowered if you don't have that education. So I will go ahead and turn it over and let you. And please note that if she's talking and it seems like there's a delay, there might be a slight delay. I will have this recorded. I am actually recording it. So if you need the link and you want to, hear it over again, please let me know. Send me an email to contact us at Medi-Helpz.com. Or if you have my personal information, send me, let me know. Say, hey, I want, I need this. Could you send it to me? So I am now going to be quiet because I'm here to be educated too. And I'm going to let Stefani go ahead and educate all of us that are here to listen and to find out how we can help our young adult who are our future. And without them, right, where are we going if we don't have them? And there's so many that have lost their lives this year too. It's hurtful, right? Because that's our future. So I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let Stefani go ahead and actually educate each and every one of us. Go ahead, it's all yours.
Yeah, so I think that it's really important throughout life that we listen to one another. I think we don't do that enough. I've been recognizing that the older I get. I had the opportunity last summer to work with Black and Brown children. They were eighth graders, and I was a mentor towards them. I had about 15 in my class specifically. And I truly learned that they just wanted people to listen to them, listen to how they were feeling, and to normalize that their feelings were valid. So I think that we as a society need to do that more, because there's so much put up against us right now. I always hear adults say, you guys are so weak. And I always say, no, I think my generation is the opposite. I think we are so strong. I think that we are more in tune with our emotions, but that definitely does not make us weak or super sensitive. I think that social media has a large impact and effect on how we are as a society. I think that we are in a day and age where we're seeing things more than we've ever seen before. It's not that we had more racial disparities than we've had before. It's not that we've had more innocent killings and things of that sort than we had before, but we have phones now. So we're able to record these things, we're able to share it with the entire world. So that causes people to have real, in depth, in that moment emotions. So I think it's important that we recognize that we are not living in the same times as before, and that we adjust our way of life. The way that we have conversations with students, whether that's in the classroom or whether that's at a dinner table. I think it's really important that we allow students, children, teens, young adults a space to tell us how they're feeling. I think it's also really important that sometimes we sit back and we're not so judgmental. We always assume that, like, oh, I've been there, I've experienced that before, but everybody goes through different walks of life. So every it our emotions comes on us so differently. So the way you may experience something and the way you may respond to something may be entirely different than the way that I respond to certain things. So I think it's really important for adults to recognize that. And I also think when it comes to school settings, it's really important for teachers and administrators to recognize that sometimes students, specifically in marginalized communities, their first thought isn't necessarily entering the school building and excited to learn for that day. They may be going through some real life struggles at home that may affect their drive to learn, may affect their education cap, So I think that our country specifically, we are so driven on testing and comparing children to one another that I think it truly has an effect. It truly has an effect on us. And not to mention, we've dealt with a pandemic. We've dealt with many racial disparities. We've dealt with a divided country when it comes to politics. We've dealt with school shootings. We've dealt with so much. So I think it's really important that we recognize the state and the climate that we are currently in, and we adjust our practices. They may be totally different than how we've done things before, but our world is changing and it's ever evolving, and we have to change with it. So I think that's super important.
And is there, and I hear you saying that it's super important. So are there tips that you can share with us as a to help, make sure that that student or their child is doing better than just okay? Like, are there tips that you can leave us with?
Sure. So I know personally with myself, I think that when I'm going through a time in my life where my mental health may not be on the positive end of things, you can tell within my behavior, my simple ways of how I may eat, how I may have conversation. Maybe I don't want to go out as much as I usually do. So I think there's signs that some people we really don't catch, because I think we naturally expect anxiety and depression to look a certain way. It means to stay in your bed, it may mean to keep the lights off, to not eat, to not want to have conversation, but sometimes anxiety and depression can simply be you going business as usual, and just feeling like you have to keep going. So that's why it's super important that adults provide spaces for young people to not be okay, because that's life. There's moments when we have highs, there's moments when we have lows. But I think specifically in marginalized communities, because of all that we've been through, because of how much we've been oppressed, unfortunately, we feel like we need to always be strong and like we can't have emotions and that we can't have sensitive conversations and that therapy may not be the best route, because why do you need to talk about your feelings when in fact that is what makes us strong, is that we can break down at the end of the day. We can have a hard cry. We can have a conversation about how we're feeling, but the next day we wake up and we keep it pushing. I think it's really important that we as humans are more empathetic and that we are more understanding of the situations that people go through. I always say empathy is my favorite word. It's how I choose to move through life. And I think that other people need to do that as well. You may not understand what someone is going through because you may have not had the same experiences, but it's really important that we can empathize with that person and say, you know what, I don't understand where you're coming from, but I see you and I hear you. And I know that you're hurting right now. And I'm going to provide you that space to be vulnerable and to not be okay. I think that we are so judged in this society really because of social media. We're like trained to show our every moves. I grew up at a time when we had something called Snapchat, and it was just created, and my generation, we were the first people on Snapchat. So Snapchat, you were chatting, you were taking a photo, and it deleted after 24 hours. You were taking a photo of you cooking a meal, you hanging out with friends, you doing homework, you being sad, you being happy. And I think that it conditioned us to always show show up, and it made us feel like we needed to show up and kind of be something other than we were. And I think that social media period is unfortunately causing those issues right now, is showing up as something that's not authentic to how we may be doing or feeling at that day, or that time. So I think that it's really important, as I said before, that we provide more spaces for children, for young adults, to just not be okay, to just be whatever it is that day, to just be.
And so for that, I do thank you. And, before we leave for the evening, I do want to actually say that I did have someone comment and they said, I agree about social media, about what you were saying, social media. And I have to say, I too agree about social media because I think, social media is good if it's used properly. But if it's not used properly and it's used to hide things, then, it messes with our psyche, both our mental psyche as well as our physical psyche. And like you said before we started the conversation tonight, it's not there's no difference, right? Mental and physical is, mental and psychological is still health, right? One. It's not two different types of health. It's all one. So I want to take the time right now to thank you very much for joining in this evening, for being a part of this is actually Chom's first Black History Month series event. And we were joined we were actually graciously joined by the Patient Rising organization. And for those of you that are listening, or those who might be watching this a little later and you want to say, hey, how can I reach out to Stephanie? It seems like she has some really nice stuff that she's talking about. I'd love to have her come on. Just, if you have a video or webinar and you need a young person to come and speak to the young people, please reach out and let her, let me know so that I can let her know so that we can make this happen. Because guess what? As we continue in society, if we don't have our young people, because they are leaving this world at record rates due to issues that they think that no one's listening and no one cares, if they're leaving like that, who do we have left, right? We're not going to be here, or we're not going to be able to do the things that they're able to do. So we need to support when we can and how we can. So once again, Stephanie, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate you coming this evening and actually giving us your word. I knew it was going to be, I definitely knew you was going to bring it because I've heard you speak before, and I was very, very impressed by hearing you speak before. So I thank you so much. And before we close out, are there any final comments that you like to bring to people?
My last comment is I was thinking about it as you were speaking. I think it's really important that we look into our communities. And if you see a child that may need a little bit more guidance or love or protection, that you be a mentor to them. I know that, I lost my mom at a very young age. So it was very important to me that I found women within my community that wanted to just support me, love on me, encourage me, maybe just take me out to eat and have a conversation. So I encourage everyone to look within your community, look within your church, your job, wherever it may be, and just see, like, is there a way that I can contribute to a young child's life today? And I think with that, that will make our world a better place. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you for sponsoring a safe space for myself and others to have these important conversations. And I hope to see more. I hope that these can continue. I'm really grateful.
Well, you're welcome, and they will. Thank you so much, and good night, and have the rest of a good evening.
Thank you.